Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'll ask our Deputy City Clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing afterwards for a brief moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the April 11th, 2023 meeting and the agenda of the April 25th, 2023 meeting in accordance with state law, city council, and housing authority policy. We have two presentations on today's agenda. Jennifer Petraglia and Serena Williams with TEDx Kids at El Cajon will come up and tell us about their upcoming event. Did I get that name right? Serene. I got pulled into the tennis player thing, and then I got confused. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Petraglia, and I'm our TEDx Kids at El Cajon organizer back again. And today we want to officially invite all of you to our event this year. I brought with me one of our past speakers, Serene, and she's also, this year, she is my intern, so she's going to be helping present to you guys today. So, Serene?
Hi, my name is Serene. I am a two-time TEDx speaker, and my first time speaking was in 5th grade, and then my second time was just last year with my first year of high school. Okay, so today we're just going to be talking about what TEDx is and what it's done for the students in our city. First off, it is a local community event where we have grades as low as, I believe, from kindergarten and then all the way up to 12th grade speaking. And they just talk about their ideas and things they're very passionate about, and this year they're going to be talking about changes that they've made for our community. With TEDx, it really helps our students amplify their voices and their confidence, and just gives them more confidence in themselves and be more proud of themselves and give them more voice. I know for me, I was very shy before I had first spoken, but since then, I've been able to build up more of my confidence and be able to speak in front of people like this. It really empowers our youth in the community and just, again, helps them bring a sense of themselves. And we are the only TEDx event that allows students as low as kindergarten to speak in front of our communities.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so for this year, we have had 121 speakers apply to be able to speak, and we accepted 21 of those speakers, and they will be talking about what they have done to change themselves, their community, and their school, and to help or talk about what they've done to help their families belong in their community and other people. This year, the speakers are from 3rd grade all the way to 11th grade. Very inspirational talks, because I know one of them is speaking about their experience from immigrating from Afghanistan all the way to here. And the speakers this year are going to be representing 13 of our schools. Okay. This is a presentation video or a promotion video for this year's event.
TEDx Kids at El Cajon on May 6th. Our theme this year is Me, Here, Now.
We can make a difference here by experiencing the benefits of nature.
By the life-changing effect of the equinox.
By making our actions louder than our words.
Make a difference now.
By eliminating bias in news.
By treating everyone as equals.
Making a difference with me by using autism as my superpower.
By understanding slime can up anxiety and depression.
By understanding language means affection and hope.
We will have TED Talks, food trucks, performances, and fun activities. Please register on our website for a free ticket. Come join us. Make a difference here and now, starting with me.
So our event this year is in 2 weeks. Our speakers have been practicing endlessly. We're almost ready. So today I want to officially invite all of you, our VIPs, to our events. A couple of you attended last year, so thank you again. But we are very excited, and hopefully we can see you guys there. I'm leaving with 2 flyers, one a VIP invite for all of you guys, and then an additional flyer with just information. Anybody else who wants information for our events, a QR code to buy tickets. It is a free event to the community.
Thank you. You can she'll take that.
Thank you.
Boy, I things must have changed a lot since I was a kid, because I don't know anybody when I was that age that could speak that well in front of a camera. That's
The
pretty
beautiful
amazing.
thing with our with the Cajon Valley District, presentation literacy is one of our biggest initiatives. We encourage all of our students to get up and speak about something they're passionate about, not just give reports in front of the class, but we encourage them to tell their story. And this is one way we're amplifying their voice on a bigger stage.
Let me see if there's any questions. Anybody? Phil?
Not a question, just a word of encouragement. I got to listen to Serene speak last year, and I was blown away with your presence on the stage, with your poise on the stage, and I think I got your autograph afterwards. That's how impressed I was. Anyone in the audience, I would take an hour out of Saturday and go see it. It really is incredible how young. I think a third grader spoke about getting outdoors and playing more, or something along those lines. I was blown away. The other thing that I noticed about the event was it goes beyond public speaking. I mean, these students are putting on an entire event with regard to the production of it. And so they're learning event skills and team building, teamwork, deadlines, coordination, under pressure, all these things. Like the mayor was saying, I never did anything like that when I was a child. So it goes beyond public speaking, and there's more than just the 21 kids that are involved in the event. So it really is a gem that we have here in El Cajon, that nationwide, they're the only district doing it with elementary school kids. So fantastic work. Thank you very much, Serene. Thanks for continuing to be an intern and help those younger kids learn how to speak and find their voice.
So I went last year as well, and I was impressed. I spent many hours. I think, most of the event there last year. And like the mayor was saying, I don't remember this either. And when you mentioned kindergartners, I'm thinking, when I was in kindergarten, I just wanted to take my nap, on my little blankie. That was the extent of kindergarten for me. And even in junior high and high school, I mean, these kids have blown me away. I took speech and debate in high school, and these kids could outdo many of my fellow students back then. So good job. Thank you for coming back. I will be there. I'm going to try and stay the whole time, and thank you very much for bringing it. Anybody else should go. Take your time. Go.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Good luck. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have Gina Bravo. She will come up and share with us about the El Cajon Library. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. As you know, I'm Gina Bravo. I'm back from, I was here last year, manager of the El Cajon Library. I'm here to share some more of the County Library's initiatives and accomplishments, as well as all the good things happening at the El Cajon branch. First, some housekeeping. We're on 201 East Douglas Avenue, right next to Fire Station 6. And our hours and latest updates are always available on our website, www.sdcl.org/El Cajon. The County Library recently launched a new strategic plan. Our mission statement is, we celebrate our communities and dedicate our passion and expertise to help you create your own story. We have 4 guiding principles as part of our new strategic plan. Learn, energize, read, and create. Everything we do at the El Cajon branch fits into one of these 4 principles. Now for a bit of history. San Diego County Library's El Cajon branch is proud to serve the city of El Cajon since 1913, and over 200,000 people come through our doors each year. In June, we will celebrate summer learning with an open house, followed by weekly performances for kids on Thursday mornings at 10:30. We are also planning a birthday party celebrating 110 years of library service. To stay up to date with all of the current happenings at the El Cajon Library, you can receive a monthly newsletter with our program calendar. If you're interested, please aim your smartphone at the QR code on the screen and follow the link to enter your email address. In the summer of 2022, we started distributing Chromebook and MiFi hotspots, also known as Tech Connect kits, through a federal grant. El Cajon Library has been the main distributor for the county, issuing 1,830 devices since last June. Tech Connect kits provide emergency connectivity for community members without access to reliable internet at home. Being part of a large county system gives us access to a great many resources. We share our book collection with 33 branches, and we're able to borrow books from public and academic libraries throughout California. We are able to offer the Rosetta Stone language program through our e-collection with resources in more than 30 languages. Also, now students can connect with a live tutor for homework help through BrainFuse's Help Now database, and anyone wanting to explore the beautiful state parks around town can do so for free by checking out a state parks pass from the library. In 2022, San Diego County Library was awarded an LSTA-funded Sustainable California Libraries Grant, Seeds in Sustainability. 11 county branches, including El Cajon, are part of this initiative, encouraging gardening, composting, and greater knowledge of environmental justice. This month, we are hosting gardening classes taught by San Diego Master Gardeners. We've hosted a seed story time and crafts and provide sustainability-focused information to share with the community. Future events will include seed distribution, and we'd love to help support the city's Urban Roots initiative in any way that we can. Our early literacy initiative focuses on the love of reading, supporting curiosity, and encouraging discovery. El Cajon Library currently supports 3 storytime programs: bilingual, preschool, and baby storytime. Each time a family visits a library program, their kids can get a card stamped. If a kid receives 10 stamps, they get to pick a prize from the treasure box. Also, starting in June, we will provide weekly grocery giveaways for families in need through a partnership with Feeding San Diego. We hope to provide those with food insecurity peace of mind during the summer. The El Cajon Library offers resources for all members of the community at every stage in life. Some of these photos depict the variety of services and programs our library staff provides weekly for adults of all ages. Our computer classes give community members with limited digital literacy skills the ability to engage with the internet more comfortably. Our Morning Friends program provides adults with developmental disabilities and their caregivers the space to make crafts, play games, enjoy music, and listen to guest speakers with support from friendly library staff. Our art exhibitions give local artists a space to share their work with the community and celebrate our diverse cultures. In November of 2022, we exhibited the work of Nenis Tibet, a young Iraqi artist who was internationally recognized in 2016 with his efforts to recreate Assyrian artifacts destroyed by ISIS. Currently, we have an exhibit on display with Write Out Loud based on the National Book Award finalist Andrew Krivak's The Bear. Come check it out. The library established a new contract with a PATH outreach worker, Anna Edson, this past October. Anna's role in the library is to speak with vulnerable members of the community during her office hours and through community outreach. She then introduces them to services that may help them on their path to a better life. This has been so helpful since most outreach workers don't have a home base. It's incredible what she's accomplished in only 6 months, and a testament to the work you all are doing here, since often services are provided in collaboration with Home Start and other East County resources. Between October and March, Anna has permanently housed 51 people and enrolled 168 new clients, and the numbers of people we are able to help continue to grow each week. Another one of the library's strategic goals is cultivating a strong workforce that is reflective of the community we serve. Our goal is to create an environment in the library where all people feel welcome and comfortable. In this trusted environment, people will utilize the vast array of services we offer in order to better themselves and create their own story. Some ways we plan on doing this is through our programs for volunteers and a library open house, where we invite families and individuals in the community to come in for a tour of our library and open discussion of where our services can go to best meet the needs of our customers. Volunteerism is a great way to stay energized and engaged in the El Cajon community. The library is always looking for volunteers, both teens and adults. Join us, we're a fun bunch. SDCL Service Learning is a professional development program to connect youth to their community, foster leadership, and support library programs and services. It is a system-wide effort to get teens involved at their local library branches. We'll be recruiting high school students to help with our summer season in a few weeks. Teens ages 14 to 17 can pick up an application packet at our library starting in late May, and we'll have orientation sessions in the first half of June. Service learning is a great opportunity for local teens to gain pre-job training and explore their interests. Service learners will be helping us with our World of Work-inspired events, encouraging kids to engage in activities that may lead to future careers while gaining professional development themselves. Last year, El Cajon Library established a partnership with the Cajon Valley Union School District for their World of Work program. The program's goal is to guide students to explore their own individual interests, which will then help lead to fulfilling employment. The library is planning fun, interactive ways to support this initiative this summer with programming for teens. Speaking of partnerships, we are also very proud of our city partnerships, where we've been on site during such fun events as Winter Wonderland and the Public Works Department's Bike to Work Pit Stop, thanks to Mario Sanchez. And last but not least, our friends at Wells Park. Dia Story Trails is a celebration of literacy and culture. The library's collaboration with the El Cajon Parks and Rec Department on this program has bloomed over the last 3 years. Thank you to Tim O'Melia and his team. This year's Story Trail is on display through Sunday, April 30th. We're also in touch with Chief Coe and have high hopes of having another fire truck story time in October, with firefighters from Station 6 reading fire safety books for kids. We're also happy to conveniently serve any needs you may have while doing outreach at the downtown El Cajon Business Partners vibrant car shows and summer concerts, and happy to partner with a large number of local and county-wide organizations to ensure El Cajon citizens have the best resources available to them all under one roof. And that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you, Mayor Wells, and for the opportunity to share with you and our amazing City Council and staff. It's been a pleasure getting things done with your team this year. I also wanted to acknowledge Sergeant Gray and all of the ECPD officers who have responded compassionately to our calls for service throughout the year. We look forward to continuing to support the citizens of El Cajon alongside you all and hope to see you soon at the library.
Well, thank you for that report. Very well done. Let me see if there's any questions. Michelle?
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
A couple of questions. The state parks pass. So if we wanted to go to a state park, we can go to the library and check out a pass?
That's correct. Yes, there you can download our app and put it on hold for yourself, and then as soon as it's available, you can come on in, check it out. Some of them are available on site, but just to be guaranteed, it's good to reserve it in advance, and then you get it for 10 days. It's like you hook it onto your rear view mirror in your car, and then you can enter into the state parks without paying the entrance fee.
That's awesome. I mean, I never knew that, and I'm sure there's a lot of residents who can't really afford the entry fee, but wanted, summer's coming up and school's going to be going out. That's excellent. The other thing was PATH. You have a worker, there's a worker from PATH there in the library doing outreach or whatever?
That's right. Yeah, full-time Monday through Friday.
So I just have to say this. When I was a kid, and especially in high school, I spent a lot of time in my local library. This was up in Reno. And I was an avid reader, and I loved the library. But this is not the library anymore. This is not where you just go and check out books and do research for your term papers. This is a total community center almost. And I had no idea. And thank you very much, because I don't think a lot of residents know that the library is providing all these services.
Yes, and everything we do is always free. So I did also want to leave some calendars. So our May calendar, and then our open house calendar, which is coming up in June for kids when they get out of school, June 22nd. That's a big event. So I'll leave these, and hopefully we can hand them out.
Yeah, you can give them over to the city clerk. Thank you so much for all that you guys do, and I hope that the community starts coming in a little bit more, and you see a bigger, walk-ins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I just have a question. When I was a kid, I went to the library a lot and checked out books. Do kids do that anymore? Do they, or are they into other things?
We do still have books. So
I mean, I know you have them, but is there much?
We do have, we have actually on Thursday afternoons, we have a reader's circle. So kids learning how to read can come and kind of read to each other and read together. So that's kind of a nice way to help kids learn. We have a book club. We have a mystery book club for adults on Thursdays every week. So we do still really love reading. So there's a little something for everyone.
Okay, thanks.
My son and daughter go to our branch, actually all the branches, with my mother-in-law. So yes, kids still do come. If it's just my two kids, they're still coming. So.
All right, thanks. Good work.
Thank
really
you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I do wonder if you didn't get the Brady Bunch reference, you may not be checking out books today.
Right, yeah.
I also want to point out our own Chris Berg reminded me that today is National Library Workers Day. So we want to thank Gina and her staff.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Pleasure to work with you all. Thank you.
Okay. All right, that brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Council members? All right. We're now at consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? I just had a quick question, Graham, about number 4. What do we get by continuing the emergency declaration?
Well, we need to continue it until the project is 100% done. So it's mid-construction. I actually toured it today. All the sidewalls are up. The bathrooms have been completely ripped out. And so that construction's ongoing. But every meeting you'll have to continue the emergency unless you want to pause it and then go rebid it. You have that as an option. But
let's just get it done.
You have to redeclare the emergency or ratify the emergency every meeting.
All right. Well, then I'd like to make a motion to approve all of the consent items. Second. Please vote. And
motion carries by unanimous vote.
This is out of order, but were there any speaker cards on the consent items?
No speaker cards were received.
Okay,
sir.
then I got lucky. All right, thank you. We're going to have to do it again. All right, we're now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Jen, do we have speaker cards for public comment?
No speaker cards were received, sir.
Okay, then. There are no written communications on today's agenda. We are now at public hearings. We have 2 items to consider. Item 6 is the adoption of new fees, modification and elimination of existing fees, an amendment of schedule of miscellaneous fees, and I'll ask our staff to tell us about this item, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is our annual fee adjustment that we take a pause to get it over with prior to the beginning of the new fiscal year. The fees are described in the agenda packet in more detail than the report actually states, although I think the report is pretty thorough. The fees will not go into effect until July 1, the beginning of the fiscal year. The reason for that is that certain fees have to wait a certain period of time, 60 days I think it is, to become effective so that folks can challenge those fees if they'd like to. So we just take them all at the same time, and upon the council's approval, they won't become effective immediately, even though it's a resolution, but will become effective July 1. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Before we do that, let me ask if there are any speaker cards for this item.
No speaker cards, sir.
Council, do you have any questions for Morgan?
I didn't see any developmental impact fees. Are we continuing that practice?
Yeah, that's a departmental question. I don't go out and solicit and suggest, but we do ask, and they have consistently withheld seeking DIFs in the city.
I think we're the only city
probably
in the county that doesn't have those. So come on and build.
I didn't see anything that looks significantly higher. Is there anything that I should be alarmed about, or that the public might be alarmed about?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. These all require that the departments go through an analysis to make certain that they only charge what is a reasonable cost to provide the service. It doesn't mean it has to be exact in every case. It just has to be a reasonable relationship to what their work is that's performed. So sometimes it takes a little more work, sometimes it takes a little less work, and while they're not mathematically exact, they're not required to be. But still, they must have performed the work to make certain that they can support these fees as requested.
So, in other words, these fees are not a profit-making opportunity for the city.
Correct.
Yeah. Which I think is important, because I think sometimes people think that that's not the case.
In fact, most fees are below the cost to provide service in El Cajon by sort of the unwritten policy of council and the councils in the past, and with a preference not to get to 100% reimbursement for costs. Some are close, but not all of them reach that level.
Did you want to say something?
We did add, I should make the council aware that we did add 2 fees related to deed-restricted affordable housing projects. Whenever there's a deed-restricted project, there's a lot of legal work that has to occur on our side and a lot of ongoing monitoring. So there is a one-time fee for the review of all that legal work, and then there's a fee for the annual monitoring that we're required to do. So that has been built in. I think we learned our lesson when we recently renegotiated the Lexington senior apartment complex. That was a very complicated deal. We spent hundreds of staff hours and lots of legal time on that. So it's a way to recover those costs for those types of projects. And we don't have that many of them, but it's all for new projects that are coming online.
Thanks for explaining that. Any more questions or concerns? All right, then I'm looking for a motion.
Move to adopt the resolution to modify existing fees, add and delete certain fees, and amend this city's schedule of miscellaneous fees.
Second. All right, moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. Item 7 is to consider proposed amendments to the ECMC Title V addressing service providers. And I'll ask staff to tell us about this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. On March 21st, City Council held a special meeting, and among other things, many things discussed, City Council discussed options on how to address housing placement programs operating in the city of El Cajon and their impacts. City Council ideas included regulations by which service providers must operate, conditions on placement of sex offenders, and requiring criminal background checks on those being placed in El Cajon. Staff indicated that strategies would be presented at the next City Council meeting. That meeting on March 28th, staff presented multiple strategies in an effort to address housing placement impacts on the city. Staff have recommended, in one effort, amending the city's municipal code, specifically Title V, to require entities and organizations that engage in housing placement activities to first obtain a special operation license before being able to operate or provide services in the city. Those organizations place individuals from other jurisdictions under contract with a jurisdiction, and they place them here in the city of El Cajon, in addition to providing case management and other types of wraparound services. A special operation license is specific to businesses and activities where regulation is necessary to adequately protect and promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the city. With that, the City Council then gave staff direction to move forward with an amendment to the municipal code at the next council meeting. By the end of April, which is today's meeting. So, staff is proposing to the City Council that an amendment be made to Title V, and this includes adding service providers to the list of businesses and activities requiring a special operation license, and then 2, adding a new chapter, 5.22, to the Title V. As proposed, service providers would then be required to obtain a special operation license and be subject to certain operational and reporting requirements. These are designed to, 1, ensure a safe living and business environment in El Cajon, 2, prevent participants from falling into homelessness, and 3, ensure program effectiveness, and 4, prevent nuisance activities at housing placement locations, wherever they may be. Service providers would be required to submit an application with supporting documents and be subject to, again, operational standards and monthly reporting. The application, some of the additional documents would be the contract with the organization or agency or government that they are under contract with. Each service provider would also be subject to a one-time special operation license fee and a business license annually. In terms of monthly reporting, I think the city is looking for how many participants this or a specific service provider is engaged with, the address of the housing location, the location where the participant was most recently homeless prior to being placed in El Cajon, number of new, existing, and discharged participants, so we can monitor program effectiveness, number of participants discharged and transported to another service provider, and the average daily rate paid at for each housing, the housing of each participant. Staff had met with several service providers. Workshops were held on April 12th and 17th. Background was given and City Council direction was shared with those those service providers. It was more of a informational exchange. There was minimal feedback given by those service providers. So with that, staff has determined that the proposed code amendment is exempt from CEQA, in that there's no possibility that it could have effect on the environment. And then staff recommends that the City Council open the public hearing, receive any testimony, and close the public hearing, and then introduce the ordinance to amend Title V. and that the city clerk then recite the ordinance by title. And staff is available to answer any questions. And before ending, I just want to point out there is one discrepancy. You'll notice in the agenda report, we did indicate that we would have a standard for distance limits for certain sex offenders. In the last minute of adjusting the ordinance and to be consistent with state statute and the penal code, that was amended to only notify the police department within 48 hours of a placement of a sex offender with a registration static 99R of 4 or greater.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Any questions for Tony? That's fine. We can do that. Any other questions for Tony?
Clarifying, this is going to apply to our existing nonprofit organizations or contractors that we contract with regard to emergency housing services, as well as nonprofits that we don't contract with. It's the same rules applying to everybody, correct?
Regardless of their tax exemption, yes. So it would be Home Starts of the world that the city contracts with, as well as the Aquas or Paths of the world who may contract with other agencies.
Okay, thank you.
What are the consequences for noncompliance, for ignoring the statute, just doing it anyway, or going through the motions of getting the license but then not complying with any of the rules or regulations?
Well, the noncompliance would be that the city manager has the ability to pull the special operation license so that they can no longer operate. If they do not get a license and continue to operate, then we would take the legal means of preventing them from operating in the city by means of the city attorney's office.
So we talked about this before when we first had the problem with the county. And the state attorney general's office was pretty clear that they did not want us to be using any legal means to interfere with this process. What has changed that allows that to happen now?
We are taking the approach, or we're proposing the approach to require a special operation license for those who are engaged in a business activity. And that business activity is taking individuals under a contract with an organization and placing them in El Cajon and providing services. We see that as a business activity that is subject to a special operation license, and the city's taken this effort to protect the general welfare, health of the community.
And this may be a question for Morgan, but is the general consensus that this is all within the legal limits?
Yes, that is certainly the intent. This is addressing the business side of things, not the beneficiaries, so to speak, of the
about the housing
benefits provided through any program, state, federal, or local programs. And so it's addressing the conduct of those that operate the business of assisting to find housing for folks.
Thank you. Would there be other uses for this approach? Say, for example, somebody who's running an adult daycare, or maybe there's other uses, or is this specifically tailored to this need?
This new chapter is specific to this type of operation where a service provider does outreach in the community, connects folks, well, not this community, excuse me, to the community, and placing folks in the city either in a bridge housing situation or a permanent housing situation with wraparound services.
Okay.
So it's just specific to that type of operation.
Okay. I know that Steve wanted to ask Tony some questions after public comment. Anybody else want to ask questions now, or should we go to public comment at this point? Tony, thank you for your in-depth report. I know you and your staff put a lot of work into this, and we very much appreciate it.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there any speaker cards for this item?
There are no speaker cards, sir.
Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
We'll go ahead and continue with questions then. Tony is available to us, as is the rest of the staff. Steve, do you want to take it off?
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've got some questions and then maybe some suggestions to tighten things up further. I certainly think we can welcome guests in our city without welcoming crime. And that's what this is trying to do, which is a great move forward to focus on the conduct and not the the source of funds for somebody staying in our city. So I think we're in good legal shape there. Operational standards, you said you removed the part about the sex offender limits with certain uses. I thought it was legal to have those limits as long as they're conditions of their parole or probation. If their conditions of their parole or probation are not to be within a certain amount of feet of certain kind of businesses, you could do that. Did you talk about that?
Morgan, if you would.
Yes, Mr. Goebel. Our position, our analysis is that those are probationary terms. Those are not in rules and orders of the court or in the case of parolees, the parole board. And those are enforceable by the state, by and the county, their officers. There is a provision that we do not use that static 99R for purposes of discriminating against housing. And so we wanted to take anything out of this that we might have wanted to have in there that dealt with discrimination in providing housing. So that's why it's simply an information and it's sort of an informed approach that our police department, our city manager's office, and others who have a need to know that somebody was placed. We don't know who it is. We don't know where exactly. Well, we do know we will know what hotel they will or motel they'll use when they place them or residential facility, but we don't get the information about who that person is other than they are a registered sex offender.
Okay, great, thank you. On the monthly reporting requirements, the location where the participant was most recently homeless prior to being placed in El Cajon. I think we've seen some people play games with that and to say, well, last night they were homeless in El Cajon when they've been outside the city limits for everything up to yesterday. And then all of a sudden they come here and it's tallied to ours. Would it make sense to say something like most recently homeless in the 7 days prior to coming in El Cajon? In other words, a week ago, if you were in Chula Vista, but last night you were in El Cajon, you should be considered a Chula Vista participant, not an El Cajon participant. Do you see what I'm saying? And the reason is because if you are discharged back to the place where you got picked up, and they say they were from El Cajon, they're going to get discharged into El Cajon when in the prior month they may have been in Chula Vista. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of the way the ordinance is written, the last where they were connected at shouldn't be in the city of El Cajon because their Equus or PATH or any other service provider other than the Home Start is not operating in the city of El Cajon.
Okay, so we'll just have to make sure these people are honest in their reporting.
Correct. This is more of the duties of the operators of these businesses to give us information that will help us in keeping our community safe.
Sounds good. Okay.
Mr. Goebel, and this won't be a perfect data point because the whole definition of someone that's transient is they are transient many times. And so there's going to be movement. And like you said, maybe a week ago they were in Chula Vista, and then 3 days ago they were in Santee, and then last night they were in Spring Valley. How would that be reported? We just thought the easiest places, once they're connected with the service provider, whether it's Equus or PATH or whoever, or Home Start, where were they connected? And that made the most sense from a locational perspective.
Yeah, I just want to keep these people honest because I don't want them saying they're all from El Cajon and they get discharged into El Cajon.
Understood.
That's not fair to our community. Looking at the ordinance itself, page 3 of the ordinance, we still have a paragraph in there about static 99. Is that to be stricken or stays?
Page 3 under definitions, there is a definition of static 99R.
And if we're not using that though?
Well, we do. I'm sorry. We do require the operators to tell us if somebody has a rating of 4 and above on a static 99R rating that they're placing. We don't stop them from placing it, but they tell us that they've placed somebody of that nature with that rating in the motel.
Sounds good.
Or the home.
Okay. Let's go on to the application, 5.22.040, page 4. Letter A, on their application, they have to provide a name, address, and contact information of the service provider, including local contact information. Should we also get a 24-hour contact point?
Yes, sir. We will. We'll add that to the application. What's proposed in ordinance isn't inclusive. It gives us a what's expected, kind of a guidance. So this is the basic information we're going to ask, but as we develop the application, we are going to ask for an emergency contact, local emergency contact.
Okay, good. A few things down, letter C, a copy of the contract or agreement. Can we say a copy of any contract or agreement? Let's not assume there's just one. They may have multiple contracts, and we want them all.
Okay, understood.
Letter D, this talks about the reporting that they have to do for where you place them. And it talks about those that are part of a domestic violence program. My question is, how do we protect victims of domestic violence in a motel and then a registered sex offender gets placed in the same motel? Now, we know probably through reporting that a sex offender got placed into the motel. We don't know their name, according to the report, if I'm correct. We just know that there is a sex offender who's been placed in a motel. And we'll just say it's by agency A. And agency B places a woman with children in the same motel. That seems like an uh-oh, we missed that one. How do we prevent that?
I don't think we prevent that, but what it does is if provider A, who's helping a family or a woman fleeing a domestic violence situation with children, we know that'll be confidential information that we can't share, but we'll have that information through my office. And then placement agency B notifies police of a sex offender. We have some due diligence at that point to notify service company A of what's happening in the motel where they have their guests staying. So there is some responsibility that lays on our shoulder because of this.
Because we knew.
Because we know now.
Okay.
And it would be the right thing to do.
Okay. The ordinance says, and only for the purpose of to get the domestic violence information, only for the purpose of investigations to consider approval of the application. I think you just gave me a different scenario that we might want to consider addressing.
Well, again, the whole purpose of this is to protect the public, including those that are obtaining services from these same providers. As Mr. Mitchell indicated, getting the information allows us the chance prior to placement to make an analysis of whether that's good or bad placement. Potentially, we could notify the service provider that that's not a good placement for this person for these reasons. There is somebody there, under a different contract. Certainly, they'll know themselves whether they're placing somebody under their own contract that's in conflict with that. But it gives us the opportunity to prevent some conflict like that by just getting that information from them.
Sounds good. Moving on to page 5, operational standards, that the service provider includes a criminal background check. Why would somebody who opposes that, why are you asking for that, is what somebody who is sensitive to that. Is that considered discriminatory to say you're going to run a background check on everybody? Should it be clarified to say for the purpose of knowing if there's any active warrants or something like that? Or do you want to leave it broad for a reason?
Well, again, we're trying to place operational standards on the organization to do their due diligence and understand that there are repercussions, there are ramifications for placing somebody there that has a criminal background. So we're asking them to do their investigations and assure us by following the ordinance that they're doing the investigation.
Okay. Letter E, that the service provider accompanies participants to their placement location. I would say to any placement location in the city, because if they get placed once, we want to make sure they get accompanied to the second location, that's if it's in the city. So I would say to any placement location in the city. That also brings up, Pat said they didn't know that they were placing somebody who did what they did. So I guess it's up to PATH to manage themselves and know who they're placing, because can you imagine if they had a 20-something female who is the PATH worker accompanying somebody to El Cajon who they may not know is potentially dangerous? I guess that's up to the provider. Okay, sounds good. Does safe parking get included in these shelter definitions?
I think it is.
Well, City Council, a safe parking lot is a type of land use, and this isn't governing any type of land use. This is only governing service provider operators, their business activities. And the city doesn't have any safe parking lots in the city?
We don't, but if we did in the future, and if it was approved, the address of each shelter, temporary housing, bridge housing, or permanent housing, they have to decide. Would safe parking be covered in that definition, or do we need to add it if it was present in the city?
I guess I'm not quite sure what these businesses would be doing with safe housing. Safe housing, in my mind, maybe
Parking.
Safe parking. I'm sorry. Safe parking is, in my mind, will be operated by somebody, but they're going to be on site. Somebody will be on site, presumably. This is not one of those where they're going to have personnel on site. We could explore that as a different zoning requirement if we're going to allow for safe parking and make it a condition with a conditional use permit, and that might be the best place to do that.
Sounds good. Okay, I think that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
I'm going to tag on to Mr. Goebel's question regarding if you have provider A placing a family into a motel, and provider B has say a sex offender that they want to place in there. I would like to make sure that provider B would be the one, maybe this is getting in the weeds, but provider B would be the one to move their person. I don't know if we can regulate that.
I think I don't believe that we can regulate that, because now we're getting into allegations of discriminatory housing, that placement person B, you
Right.
shall not go there because of your past criminal history. I think where we can play a role is, one, letting both parties know, hey, this is the situation,
Right.
maybe consider a different location. And if they don't, then we would reach out to the first parties to let them know this is the condition. You may want to consider moving the people you're serving.
I'm just trying to alleviate any further trauma or, problems. It's easier to move one person than it would be to move the family or the domestic violence or, the domestic violence victim. It just seems like we get them in there, and then the sex offender is the second person coming in. It should be the sex offender that, if the first family has a problem with it, they should be able to stay, and then the sex offender gets moved to a different facility. I'm just trying to lessen what happens to the families and what happens to the women. They've already gone through trauma. They've already gone through issues. Having to move again is just adding on to that.
It also helps. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we certainly understand. It's really going to be up to service provider B, the one who's placed the domestic
Right.
violence. We inform them to the best of our ability with the information that we have. It's going to be up to that service provider to decide on, is it still safe for them to be there, or do they need to move?
I know we're trying to regulate everything, but I'm just trying to look out for the families and the women.
Understood.
That are dealing
Staff
with it.
certainly understands your concerns.
Well, I was going to say it's also helpful that we're requesting that certain sex offenders, that we be notified before they're even placed in the city, because it gives us some opportunity to do some damage control.
Phil? Gary?
I'm good.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, well, this is a really important topic. I'm glad we're doing this. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask or say before we go to a motion? I'm looking for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to introduce the next ordinance in order, approving proposed amendments to Municipal Code Title 5 with the changes, two changes on section 5.22.040, paragraph C, a copy of any contract. And in 5.22.060, paragraph E, that service provider shall accompany participants to any placement location in the city.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote, and the title of the ordinance is an ordinance repealing Section 5.16.030 of Chapter 5.16 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, adding a new Section 5.16.030 of Chapter 5.16 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, and adding a new Chapter 5.22 to Title 5 of the El Cajon Municipal Code.
Okay. Thank you very much. There are no administrative reports and no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 8 is my activity report. We're at activity reports for council members. Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
I have one thing to add. I'd like to thank the council for its support in sending that letter to Caltrans. They have approved a concrete barrier on westbound Interstate 8 between 2nd Street and the 67 off-ramp. That's going to be a cost of $6 million, and it goes through several stages of acquisition of funds, which they expect to start the process in early 2024.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment.
It's a win for the city.
Well done. Gary?
As reported.
Phil?
As reported with one addition, interview with KUSI today. And I did want to mention for any residents, the County of San Diego is having a community event, informative event about the Bradley Street widening, the Bradley Bridge widening today at 6 o'clock. So if you're available to go to that project is moving forward. I would encourage any El Cajon residents to go to get informed. After, I think, 20 years of the Bradley widening bridge being talked about, it's finally beginning to be underway. So I would recommend following that. I think I will be attending that between council meetings.
Michelle?
Mine is reported, and my esteemed colleague, Mr. Ortiz, stole my thunder about the Bradley widening project. Thank you very much. Because that's a block from my house. So I encourage, again, I'm just going to reiterate what he said. You must go. You need to find out, if you're a resident in that area, you need to find out what they're going to do, hold them accountable, and let's make sure that they don't leave the area blighted like they have for the last 2-3 years when they bought all the houses there. So once again, 6 o'clock at the Ronald Reagan Center next to the library. Be there or be square.
Okay, sounds great. All right. Item 13 is a joint report from Councilmember Ortiz and myself. Phil, do you mind if I take it?
Please.
So this is about skilled nursing facilities that sometimes abuse the city's emergency medical response system. I see a friend of mine there from the hospital days, probably remembers that when you're working at a hospital on Friday nights, all of a sudden, all the city ambulances start showing up because all the skilled nursing facilities want to get their residents out of the skilled nursing facility for the weekend because they have low staffing on the weekends. And there's also a rule that says, I'm not sure about that, I think it's for 45 days, but you get paid one rate up until about 45 days, and then your rate goes down significantly. So the way around that is to have that person spend the night in the hospital, and then it all starts back at zero. Now, of course, many skilled nursing facilities are square about this and do this the right way, but some take advantage of the emergency EMS system, and they make up stories, and they call and say this patient is combative, or this patient is suicidal, or this patient is having kidney failure when they're not, and an ambulance has to come and take that patient to the hospital. We can see in patterns by the number of people that use the services which facilities are abusing this and which are not. Now, this is not something new. We've talked about this. Steve and I have talked about this. The reason I put it on the agenda this time was because in speaking with Graham, he told me that there was a city, Costa Mesa, that had worked out a way to find the excessive use of the EMS system, find the utilizers of that, and make them pay part of their portion for that. I think that seems fair. I don't want to certainly hurt people that are doing the right thing and just doing the normal things that you would do. But if you're taking advantage of the system and letting the city of El Cajon pay your bills for you, then I think then you should have some skin in the game in that. So that's why we brought that up. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Well, just something else to add. The concern is surrounded when skilled nursing facilities, which are medical facilities, call 911, our EMT, paramedic, firefighters respond, and they get there, and it's not an emergency. That's the issue. And working for an ambulance company, it was common practice for our ambulance company to get calls from skilled nursing facilities asking if we could just come out for a lift assist. And the skilled nursing facility admittedly said, well, if you can't come out, we'll just call 911 and have them help us. So it's common practice for skilled nursing facilities to operate their business in this way. And we don't want to the intent here is not to come down on skilled nursing facilities who are calling 911 when there's an actual medical emergency. Yeah. I mean, skilled nursing facilities by its nature are going to have people who are medically fragile. So that's not the intent. The intent is to curb the excessive non-emergency calls and free up the resources. One of our goals was to reduce call volumes, the 191,000 calls that we get a year. That's one of our goals, and I think putting in some kind of ordinance to curb that in this respect would do that.
Anybody else? Steve?
So it's a great idea. I've talked about this with the city manager for years. It's a thorn in my side of the abuse that they send their staff scattering, so and they call the muscle of the firefighters to come do things that they should be doing. I have a question, just kind of a foundation for this. Do we triage calls to skilled nursing facilities, meaning sometimes we send an ambulance, sometimes we send an engine in an ambulance, or do we always send an engine and an ambulance?
I wouldn't know that, but I'd ask our chief is here and with a cadre of other staff if they want to come down and answer that question.
Hi, Chief Coe. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, city staff. And to your question, yes, we do triage calls. And depending on what the severity of a call is, we will decide what the level of response is going to be.
So you don't always, because it's a skilled nursing facility, you don't always send an engine and an ambulance, or just an engine, or you decide call by call.
Correct. Not necessarily, but oftentimes, depending on what the information is and what's going on, because we get the calls from skilled nursing facilities or skilled facilities, we do kind of have to rely on that there's some medical personnel there who are making a call to 911. So oftentimes we do make a decision that there is probably going to be a more serious call there.
And so things like interfacility transfers or lift assists, those are emergency calls, or we just have to treat them because of the liability?
Yeah, if we do know that it isn't a true emergency call, we're not sending a full response.
Having said that, having been the receiving doctor at a hospital that got these patients, it's very unlikely that they would call and say, this is not really that big of a deal, but we're sending them anyway. They're going to say, there's code words you can say that you can't. If they say they're suicidal, if you say there's difficulty breathing, if you say there's a loss of consciousness or anything like that, you always have to say send them. You know, these people know the system.
Is a fire engine tied up until that person is admitted to a hospital? Does the fire engine have to accompany the ambulance to the hospital and wait until the person gets?
No.
Okay. Okay.
The situation would be if there's no ambulances available and it is a higher severity level call, and we would have to supplement the BLS level ambulance with our personnel. At that point, we would send our paramedics to the hospital.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you. And congratulations on a great article in Sunday's paper. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
I think this is a great
I didn't see the article.
Oh, it was like front page, I think it was.
What was it?
Chief Coe's life.
Oh, wow.
Starting from a boy in Estonia and how he made his way to Julian. And
is there a movie coming? Maybe George Clooney?
As your lawyer, don't answer that question yet until we get a contract.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
It really is a great story. I think this is a great item. I'd love to be able to stop the abuse of what I think I've heard is 10 to 13% of our fire EMS calls.
Let me ask if we had any comments, any speaker cards on this item.
There are no speaker cards, sir.
Okay, then. So we could go ahead and go with the motion unless anybody had any concerns that they wanted to discuss.
Move to approve. Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. There are no general information items and no first readings of ordinances and no second readings of ordinances on today's agenda. And that brings us to closed session. The city attorney will recite the titles and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The City Council will meet in closed session on two items. Item 14 is a closed session for conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives are Mr. Mitchell, Mr. DiMaggio, Mr. Shane, and Ms. Thorne. The employee organization is the El Cajon Municipal Employees Association. Item 15 is a closed session for the public employee performance evaluation of the position of city manager.
Okay, then. Make a motion then to go to closed session. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to closed session. We shouldn't be too long. We'll come back and conclude the meeting. Ask our city attorney to report on the goings-on in closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on two items. The first was an item with a conference with labor negotiators. As described in the agenda, the City Council gave direction to its negotiators in dealing with the El Cajon Municipal Employees Association. In item 15, the City Council performed its evaluation of the city manager.
Thank you. All right, this brings us to adjournment. The adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 25th day of April 2023, is adjourned till Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll see you in a couple hours.